Imagine coming home to find uniformed men waiting at your gate. Not criminals, not trespassers. Security, hired men, their arms folded, sunglasses catching the hot afternoon sun, already acting like they own the place. That's what happened to Marcus Green, a 42-year-old man who had worked his entire life to buy the sprawling ranch his grandfather once dreamed of owning. But on that day, he stepped out of his truck to find two security officers standing in his driveway, as if he was a stranger here. One of them raised a clipboard. "Sir, we received notice. You're not allowed on the property without authorization." Marcus froze, keys still in hand. "My property?" he shot back. "This is my ranch. My name is on the deed. What authorization are you talking about?" The guard didn't flinch, didn't apologize. He only repeated with a rehearsed smugness, "We've been told you're trespassing. We've been instructed to escort you out for the neighborhood's safety." And just like that, Marcus's world tilted. At first, Marcus thought it had to be a mistake, some clerical error, maybe a prank. But as he stepped closer to porch, something felt off. The front gate he locked every morning was hanging slightly open. His mailbox leaned crooked, the latch broken. A package he had been waiting for was torn open on the ground, its contents missing. And then, worse, he noticed muddy boot prints across his porch steps. Not his wife's. Someone else had been inside. He turned sharply to the guards. "Who told you this? Who gave you the order?" One of the men shifted his weight, almost nervously. Then he nodded toward the street. That's when Marcus saw him. Standing across the road, arms casually folded, was Richard Calloway, the president of the neighborhood association, a man known for his crisp white shirt, smug smile, and a voice that dripped with polite authority. He didn't come closer. He just watched, as if he were daring Marcus to step out of line. When Marcus marched across the street, Richard greeted him with the kind of grin that wasn't friendliness. It was ownership. "Marcus," he said smoothly, "you have to understand this isn't personal. The neighborhood board has concerns. Strange activity. Vehicles parked late. Visitors at odd hours. People are uncomfortable." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Uncomfortable? With what? I've lived here for 3 years. Paid every bill. Fixed my fences. Hosted your stupid HOA meetings in my barn. And now you're saying I don't belong in my own home." Richard lifted his palms in mock innocence. "We're just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. Surely you can appreciate that." But his eyes gleamed, like he was enjoying every second of Marcus's outrage. That night, Marcus double-checked every lock in the house. His wife, Denise, tried to calm him, but she noticed it too. Drawers half opened, a sweater she swore she folded yesterday now tossed over a chair, a half-eaten apple sitting on the counter. Someone had been inside. The next morning, Marcus's truck tires were slashed. His mailbox was stuffed with torn, wet letters, and taped to the front door was a notice signed by the HOA that said, "This property is under review. Entry subject to community approval." Marcus confronted Richard at the next HOA meeting. The room was packed, neighbors whispering, eyes darting. Richard stood at the front like a preacher before his congregation. "Marcus," Richard said loudly, "the community feels unsafe. Complaints have been filed. Noise, guests, even reports of suspicious packages." A murmur swept the room. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. "That's a lie, and you know it. Who filed these complaints? Show me the reports." But Richard just shrugged. "The details are confidential, for the protection of our residents." It wasn't just words. Weeks passed, and Marcus noticed his back gate open again. Keys he left in the kitchen now missing. One night, he came home to find the lights on upstairs, even though no one had been inside all day. Someone was moving through his house like it was theirs. The worst came when police showed up, sirens cutting through the night. They demanded entry, waiving a so-called community authorization. Neighbors spilled onto their porches, whispering, phones recording. Richard appeared among them, wearing that smug half-smile. "See," he told the officers, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We've had complaints for weeks. He's unstable. We just want peace. And just like that, Marcus, the man who owned the deed, who built the ranch with his bare hands, was treated like a trespasser on his own land. From that night on, Marcus couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle outside felt like an invasion. On social media, fake accounts spread rumors about him. Claims of violence, threats, even drug activity. His phone buzzed with messages from strangers. Get out of our neighborhood. Denise broke down one night after being confronted at the grocery store by two women whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. Why doesn't your husband just leave? One said, he's making it harder for all of us. The other added, it was psychological warfare. But Marcus wasn't giving up. He dug through records, pulled up his deed, and even caught one of the guards on video admitting that Richard had hired them privately, not through any official channel. For a moment, Marcus felt the tide shift. He sent the evidence to a lawyer. He told Richard face to face, I'm not leaving. I have the law on my side. Richard's smile faltered just for a second, but then it returned, colder than ever. One evening, Marcus came home to find a manila envelope slid under his door. Inside, photocopies of property deeds. Old ones, outdated ones. But highlighted in yellow were strange clauses, technical loopholes about easements, land rights, and community safety provisions. Clauses Richard could twist. The next day, Richard approached him with mock sympathy. Marcus, I tried to warn you. The ranch isn't as secure as you think. There are ways around ownership, friends in the county office, judges who owe favors. You might have the deed, but I have the keys. And he held up a ring of shiny house keys. Marcus's house keys. By now, Denise was terrified. She begged Marcus to leave, but Marcus refused. He couldn't abandon his grandfather's dream. Then, one night, Denise screamed from upstairs. Marcus bolted into their daughter's room, only to find a window wide open, curtains blowing in the night air. On the pillow lay a note, scrawled in sharp black ink. You don't own what you think you own. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. Imagine this. You walk into your child's bedroom late at night, only to find the curtains blowing open, the window unlocked, and on the pillow a note in jagged black ink that reads, You don't own what you think you own. That's exactly what Marcus Green faced. And in that moment, the battle for his ranch, the land his grandfather dreamed of, became more than a property dispute. It was psychological warfare. Because if strangers could slip in and out of his home, if they could leave messages on his child's bed, then no lock, no document, no law seemed strong enough to protect him. And that's where things got darker. Much darker. Marcus hardly slept. He paced the hallway like a guard dog, shotgun resting against the wall, eyes snapping at every creak. Denise sat on the couch, trembling, clutching their daughter, Ava, who had woken up crying. At 3 a.m., Marcus stepped outside. The ranch stretched quiet in the moonlight, but something felt wrong. The gate he repaired yesterday now leaned open again. In the dirt, faint outlines of boot prints curved around the barn. Someone was toying with him, watching him, testing his limits. By dawn, Marcus's resolve hardened. He told Denise, We're not leaving. I don't care what they try next. But he didn't realize that the very next day, Richard Calloway, the man behind it all, went up the stakes in a way that even Marcus wasn't ready for. It was mid-morning when Marcus spotted Richard standing across the road again, sipping coffee like a man without a care in the world. Marcus stormed over, fists tight. You broke into my home, my daughter's room. Do you understand the line you crossed? Richard tilted his head, pretending to be surprised. Marcus, now let's not get dramatic. If someone entered your house, maybe you should ask yourself why your locks don't work. Maybe it's a sign this neighborhood needs better security. You smug son of... Marcus lunged forward, but Richard's calm smile only widened. Careful, he said softly. Neighbors are watching. Cameras, too. You would want people to think you're violent, not with all those rumors going around. And Marcus realized Richard was baiting him, pushing him to snap, so he looked like the unstable man Richard kept telling everyone he was. That week, things spiraled. First, Marcus noticed the barn door wide open, tools missing, feet scattered across the floor. Then Denise discovered her jewelry box overturned, 2 rings gone. Even their dog, Samson, began barking at odd hours for a raise, as if someone lurked just beyond the shadows. But the most chilling moment came one evening when Marcus walked into the kitchen and froze. The refrigerator door was ajar. Inside, cartons were shifted, a sandwich half-eaten on a plate. Someone had been eating in their house, like it was theirs. Marcus finally snapped and called the sheriff's office. When 2 deputies arrived, he laid out everything, the note, the missing items, the break-ins. But instead of support, he got suspicion. "Mr. Green," one deputy said, "we've had multiple calls about disturbances at your address. Yelling, aggression, even threats. You sure you're not just stressed?" Marcus's jaw dropped. "Are you kidding me? My house is being invaded, and you're asking if I'm stressed?" From a corner of his eye, he spotted Richard leaning against his car, watching, smiling, and Marcus understood. Richard wasn't just manipulating neighbors. He had the ear of the police, too. The humiliation spread beyond his ranch. At the grocery store, Marcus overheard whispers. "That's him, the angry one. He's dangerous, you know. I heard he threatened kids on the street." At church, an older couple avoided Denise entirely, muttering something about bad influence. Even at Ava's school, another parent confronted Denise. "Maybe it's time you consider moving," she said coldly, "for everyone's sake." Marcus felt like the walls of the town itself were closing in. But Marcus wasn't finished. He doubled down, hiring a private investigator to trace Richard's moves. Within a week, the investigator handed Marcus gold. Documents showing Richard had personally hired the private security guards, paid them off the HOA books, and used falsified complaint letters from non-existent neighbors to justify his actions. Marcus felt a spark of hope. He stormed to Richard's door, shoving the folder in his face. "I've got you. Fraud, harassment, trespassing. This is over." For the first time, Richard's face flickered. The mask slipped. His voice dropped to a low growl. "You think you've won, Marcus? You think one folder of papers will save you? You don't understand how deep this goes." Then, just like that, the smug smile returned. "But I admire your spirit. Let's see how long it lasts." The next night, Marcus returned home to find another envelope under his door. Inside were court filings, real ones this time, petitions challenging his ownership of the ranch. Richard had dug up obscure zoning laws, claiming Marcus's land violated community safety easements dating back 50 years. Laws no one had enforced in decades, until now. And attached was a petition signed by over half the neighborhood, declaring Marcus a disruptive resident unfit to live on the property. Marcus's hands trembled as he read the names. People he'd helped fix fences for. People who'd eaten at his table, now turning against him. Days later, the final blow came. Marcus returned home to find his locks changed. His own key wouldn't fit. He pounded the door until a guard opened it, grinning. "Sir, this property is under community protection now. You'll need authorization to enter." Marcus's blood boiled. "My name is on the deed." But behind the guard, Richard appeared in the hallway, holding a glass of wine. "Marcus," he said smoothly, "you keep saying that word, deed. But what does a deed mean when the entire neighborhood has decided you don't belong?" Marcus's fist shook. He could see Denise crying in the driveway, Ava clutching her arm. Richard leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. "You still don't get it. This isn't about land. This is about power. And power doesn't come from paper. It comes from people who believe you don't belong here." Then he pulled something from his pocket. A key. Marcus's key ring, the one that had gone missing weeks ago. Richard dropped it at Marcus's feet. "You might want this back, though you won't be needing it much longer." And before Marcus could answer, the door slammed shut in his face. The ranch, his ranch, now stood locked against him. And somewhere inside, he swore he heard footsteps moving, as if Richard had already made himself at home. Imagine standing outside your own home, your family crying beside you, and the man trying to destroy you drops your missing keys at your feet, smirking like he already owns everything. That's where Marcus Green was. Locked out, His wife sobbing in the driveway. His little girl asking, "Daddy, why won't they let us inside?" And on the other side of that door, Richard Calloway, the smug neighbor who decided Marcus didn't deserve the land he was born to inherit. But if Richard thought Marcus was about to roll over, he had no idea just how far a man will go when his family is threatened. This was just the beginning. Marcus didn't leave. He couldn't. He dragged a chair into the driveway, shotgun across his lap, eyes fixed on the glowing windows of his own ranch house. Every now and then, he thought he saw movement inside. Shadows crossing rooms. A figure pausing in the upstairs window. Denise whispered, "Marcus, please. Let's just go to a hotel." Ava's scared. But Marcus shook his head, his voice rough. "If I walk away now, it's over. That man will never give this place back." So they stayed, cold, silent, waiting for a dawn that felt like it would never come. Morning brought no peace. Instead, 2 patrol cars rolled up, gravel crunching beneath their tires. The sheriff himself stepped out. Gray hair, mirrored sunglasses, voice smooth like he'd practiced in a mirror. "Mr. Green," he said, "you can't stay camped out here. We've had complaints. You're disturbing the peace." Marcus stood, shoulders squared. "This is my property." The sheriff tilted his head. "Not according to these papers." He waved a manila folder, the same zoning petitions Richard had filed. Denise's voice cracked. "Sheriff, please, this is our home, our daughter's home. You can't just—" But the sheriff cut her off. "Ma'am, unless you want to spend the night in jail, I suggest you take your family and leave." Behind him, Richard leaned casually against his car, sipping coffee, grinning like the devil himself. Marcus drove his family into town, but everywhere he went, the humiliation followed. At the diner, Forks paused mid-bite when he walked in. Conversation stopped. Then whispers began. "That's him, the troublemaker. He's dangerous. Did you hear what he did to his neighbors?" "I heard the sheriff had to pull him off Richard." Even Ava noticed. She tugged on her mom's sleeve. "Mommy, why is everyone staring at us?" Denise couldn't answer. That night, Marcus got a call. A low, hushed voice. "Mr. Green, this is Officer Daniels. I probably shouldn't be calling, but not everyone's with Calloway. Some of us know what he's doing." Marcus's heart hammered. "Then help me, please. He's tearing my life apart." Daniels hesitated. "Meet me tomorrow night. Back lot of the old feed store. Midnight, but come alone." Marcus showed up, pulse racing. And sure enough, Officer Daniels was there, nervous, glancing over his shoulder. He slid Marcus a flash drive. Everything Calloway's been doing. Fake complaints, payoffs, even footage from the private security. It's all here. Enough to bury him. Marcus's hands shook as he took it. "Why are you helping me?" Daniel sighed. "Because sooner or later, Calloway's going to turn on everyone. He thinks he owns this town. But be careful. He knows you're not breaking. That makes you dangerous to him." But when Marcus got home that night, Denise was waiting, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. "Marcus," Richard came by. Marcus stiffened. "What did he say?" She looked away. "He offered us money. Enough to start over somewhere else. And he promised Ava would be safe if we left." Marcus's voice broke. "And you believed him?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't know what to believe anymore. But Marcus, I'm scared. Every day feels like we're one step closer to losing everything, or worse." Marcus pulled her close, whispering, "That's why we fight. For Ava, for the ranch, for us." But in the back of his mind, doubt gnawed like rot in the wood. Days later, the HOA called a community meeting. Marcus arrived to find the town hall packed. Neighbors, police, even reporters. And at the front, Richard Calloway, smiling like a king addressing his court. "Ladies and gentlemen," Richard began, "we all want a safe, stable neighborhood. But one man has disrupted that peace. Threats, violence, refusal to follow rules." He gestured toward Marcus. "This is not the kind of man we want raising a family here." Boos rippled through the crowd. Marcus's fists clenched. He stepped forward, raising the flash drive high. You want the truth? Here it is. Proof that Richard Calloway has been lying to every one of you. Fake signatures, bribes, harassment. For a moment, the room went silent. Faces turned toward Richard. But then Richard chuckled. Slow, cold. Marcus, Marcus, you poor, desperate man. Always with your stories. Always with your paranoia. He turned to crowd. This is what I've been warning you about. Unstable. Dangerous. Obsessed. And then, like magic, screens lit up, projectors flickered on. But it wasn't Marcus's evidence. It was him. Clips of Marcus shouting, slamming doors, confronting neighbors, edited together to make him look unhinged. Gasps filled the room. Richard spread his arms. See for yourselves. This isn't a victim. This is a threat. By the time Marcus stumbled out of that hall, Denise wouldn't even look at him. Ava clung to her side, confused, afraid. Marcus, Denise whispered. Maybe he's right. Maybe leaving is the only way. Marcus felt his chest cave in. The war wasn't just against Richard anymore. It was against his own family's faith in him. That night, Marcus drove back to the ranch. Alone, he pounded on the door, screaming Richard's name. No answer. So he circled to the barn. And that's when he saw it. His grandfather's old chest, the one he kept padlocked for years. The lock was gone. The chest stood wide open. Inside, nothing. The deeds, the letters, the family photographs. Every piece of proof that this land was his, gone. From the shadows, Richard's voice floated. Calm, mocking, looking for something. Marcus? Marcus spun, fists clenched. Richard stepped forward, holding a single yellow paper. This deed your grandfather cherished? Interesting thing about history, it's all interpretation. And I've got friends who write the narrative now. He held the paper to a lighter. Flame licked the corner. Marcus lunged. But Richard only laughed, the fire growing. Marcus managed to snatch the burning deed, stamping out the flame with his bare hands. His palms blistered. His heart pounded. Richard leaned close, whispering in his ear. You think this ends with a piece of paper? No, Marcus. This ends when you accept the truth. You don't own this ranch. I do. The neighborhood does. The law does. Everyone but you. Marcus's breath came ragged. I'll never stop fighting you. Richard's smile widened. I know. That's what makes it fun. And then, from inside the house, Ava's voice screamed. Daddy! Daddy! Marcus froze. Denise's voice followed, high-pitched with terror. Richard's grin turned to a sneer. Looks like the game just moved inside. The camera would linger on Marcus's face, sweat, rage, desperation, as he charged toward the door. But the screen cuts to black, leaving one final question hanging in the air. When a man is pushed to his breaking point, how far would he go to take back what's his? So what would you do if a man like Richard tried to erase your life, piece by piece? Would you fight back no matter the cost, or walk away before it destroys everything? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the deeper we go into stories like this, the darker they get.